Hey everyone, hope you're doing well out there, and thank you for being here for another episode of Conversations with Carswell. This time I spoke with Trey, Aaron, and Connor from the band Church Friends. We talked about what makes a band great, their individual experiences, and advice for young musicians coming up. Without further ado, here's Church Friends. So I do want to do a brief introduction of each one of you guys.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with Connor.
Okay.
Connor, you play bass for the Church Friends, and of course, you sing like an angel. I had the honor of working with you in the studio not too long ago for the Shayro record, and I was blown away by your talent, man.
Oh, thank you.
Every time we've hung out, it's always been impeccable vibes. And I understand that you're not only just a wonderful friend, and musician, but an amazing father as well. You have my utmost respect, my friend.
Thank you. I was going to say likewise when he said father, but
Chris is a terrible father.
It's worse father, just very absentee. And next, Aaron, you are the keyboard player for Church Friends. You also sing and rap as well. In these few years we've worked together, I've really enjoyed watching your process, and I'm impressed not only by your lyricism, but your next level production as well. I feel like you have a very unique and valuable ear for sample crafting, and I'm excited to hear what you've been cooking lately. I'm also very thankful for you going out on a limb and trusting me with shooting not one, but two of your music videos. I've really enjoyed making those with you, and I'm really looking forward to working more in the future.
Dude, that means a lot coming from you. Let me just say thank you.
And Trey, you are the drummer and no doubt the band director for Church Friends, as well as someone I've known for about a decade now. I think it is a decade, which is insane to say out loud. We used to work long hours together back in the day. We've seen each other grow and perform around the city over the years. And as long as I've known you, Trey, you've been a leader in everything you do. And I've loved seeing you create opportunities and open doors for your friends to be able to eat and see a return through doing what they love. And that's not just through the avenue of music. Trey, you're about your bread. You're fiercely loyal to your friends. And I'm proud of you, my brother.
Appreciate that.
You've set quite a standard, and I hope you know I see and appreciate you.
Dude, yeah. It's actually, I think, 2011 is when we first met. So we're well over a decade.
We're over a decade.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's insane. Yeah, I was just thinking about first working together. It's like, it's really been that long.
It's been a long time, man.
But,
been about bread the whole time, though.
Yeah, about always been about the bread. That mindset has never changed. I respect that.
Confirm.
But you always create opportunities for your friends to get bread too, which I really respect.
Can also confirm.
Yeah, can also confirm. But Church Friends, with influences from Grateful Dead and Anderson .Paak, your latest album, Deer Park, is out everywhere music is sold. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. Section 1. So we're just going to do a little origins of Church Friends. I'd love to do that. So I'd love to start with how did Church Friends start, and how did you guys form, like initially? And
well, the true founding father is the one that's not sitting here.
It's true. It's true.
So Aaron's brother Grant, I think, was the original mastermind behind the group. He had started to get into songwriting, and he's another guy that's always looking to put people on. And so he, I don't know if he volunteered Aaron or forced Aaron into it, but, Aaron's his brother. So they started putting some tracks down, and then he called me. Grant and I had a band in high school before Church Friends. So, and we were in marching band together. So we kind of had a musical background. And then Connor and Aaron were best homies. So Connor got pulled into the mix too, and we were originally kind of just laying down parts for Grant at his little apartment in Deer Park, and
on the old 8-track.
On an 8-track.
Yeah, there you wow.
With really no aspirations or anything past that. It was just kind of like we're hanging out, making music. But I think we pretty quickly realized, like, oh, this is a vibe. Yeah. And at that time, we were making like Mac DeMarco influenced psychedelic I mean, I don't know.
It
You
was
guys,
all over the place.
It was all over,
It
yeah.
was Tame Impala-ish, you know. He
Nice.
likes the synthesizers a lot, so Grant was getting a lot of synths out and crazy effects on the pedals and stuff.
experimental recording. I remember we put Connor in my shower at one point to record vocals because the rationale was, well, you always sound better singing when you're in the shower. So let's
Okay.
put Connor. That track never got released.
Yeah, it's trash. It
There's
sounds awful.
weirdly enough, there's something weird about the reverb.
Yeah,
Weirdly enough.
yeah.
Mhm.
But no, we started doing that stuff, just playing in our parents' basements, playing at Grant's apartment over there by Bellarmine, and just little shows would come along, and we would just do them.
Mhm.
And I think we really started to cut our teeth playing these house shows over in Portland. So Aaron had a friend that had a warehouse, basically, that they lived in, and they would host these like warehouse shows, and they were crazy.
It was awesome.
Like crazy.
That's
And we played there a handful of times
Mm-hmm.
and started to see this like little seed develop of like people that were into what we were doing.
Yeah.
And then from there, it kind of went to playing at little venues. But in terms of how we all kind of came together, Aaron and Grant are brothers. Me and Grant were friends from high school. These guys were friends, but Aaron, Grant, and Connor grew up in church together.
Right.
So when we were looking for a name, it's like, well, let's just go literal.
It was very
Church
literal.
friends.
Yeah.
You know,
I love that.
that's it, really.
Don't think too hard.
So the band you had mentioned before, was that before Church Friends? Was that Formalities?
That was the formalities,
Yeah.
yeah. So Grant and I played with three guys, Logan Hopkins, Gavin Hopkins, and Shane Spader, who went on to be the Boa Boys.
Mhm.
And as things happen with high school bands, we had creative differences.
Yeah.
And so, and we're all great friends. It's all
Mhm.
good. But me and Grant kind of went our direction and they went theirs. And that's how we ended up over here. But I think everybody was like, this was supposed to happen that way.
Yeah.
We ended up, Church Friends went on to do a lot of collaborating with Boa, whether it was on stage or on recording. They're featured on the Deer Park album.
Mhm.
So yeah, we have a long history of being kind of in the mix in the city. And then the current iteration of what we're doing is probably the most fun that I've ever had.
Most fun, most
Definitely.
different too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But I don't want to hog everything. I'll let them chime in.
So can you share about the other musical experiences you guys have had together, like outside the band?
Outside the band, I'd say with three of us in the room, mainly it's me and Aaron.
Yep.
Trey was kind of I met Trey last out of anybody. Certainly
Fast
is-
friends though. Fast
Fast
friends.
friends, yeah. Fast
Definitely.
friends.
Oh.
Yeah, but Grant was the one who introduced me to Trey there. But yeah, no, Aaron and I have always, just kind of played music together. Since we were kids, we've always enjoyed it, and so in some way or another, we've even just sitting in the basement playing the guitar, doing covers or things like that. We've always gotten together with our friends and made music in some capacity, never in a serious way until Church Friends. But yeah,
I actually started on the drums, believe it or not.
yeah, Aaron
Wow.
I used to play
drums.
drums while he was playing guitar,
He did, yeah.
but I don't know what
Yeah,
moved
no.
me to piano. To be honest, one day it just happened. I don't know.
It just
There was
happened.
always a piano in my house, and one day I was just like, I kind of like this better.
Mhm.
But
You're like, Trey's just in the pocket, so maybe
yeah,
I'll put it on
right.
the
Maybe I
piano.
should
Yeah.
just give up on that.
So I'd love to hear from each one of you. We'll start with Trey. What were your first musical influences, like the people who made you want to become a musician?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, man. I didn't really grow up in a house where it was like music was life. My parents pretty much played two things exclusively. It was the Beatles and it was Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so I have memories of as a child, we didn't put the TV on during dinner. We put on an album. So
Mm.
like we would sit down at the table and the Beatles, like Help album is playing, or like Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA is playing. And we would listen to that music while we're eating dinner. So it's a way to kind of, which I like, it's a way to, you're not sitting there in awkward silence the whole dinner. And when the
Yeah.
conversation kind of lulls, there's something there in the background and it's not the TV. So you're not sitting there distracted and you're still present with each other. My dad also had these like Bruce Springsteen live concert DVDs that he would just like, that was his way of relaxing at night sometimes, was just throwing one of those on and watching it. And so Bruce was like known for his live shows,
Yeah.
or so I thought at the time until I met the Grateful Dead. Not met the Grateful Dead until I got introduced to the Grateful Dead. I thought Bruce Springsteen was like the peak of a live performance.
Right.
And he certainly does put on a good show. So I grew up on exclusively Beatles and Bruce Springsteen. Like, that's it. I did not get introduced to what I would say like the full scope of music until really high school. I think in middle school, I was kind of just influenced by what was popular, a little bit of stuff that I put on my MP3 player. But even then, I was still listening to Bruce and the Beatles.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my earliest memories of music and my background. My dad is from New Jersey, so Bruce Springsteen is like the king of that state.
The boss.
The boss, yeah, he's the boss. But, I wish I could say I have all these great influences and backgrounds, but that's really it. Everything else I kind of discovered through friends in high school and got really turned on to like, oh, wow, there's all of this music out there and these different styles that I like. And I've had phases over the years, of what I'm really into and what I'm listening to. But that's what it always comes back to. And it's interesting, if I'm like struggling mentally or having a rough time, the music I want to listen to is Bruce and the Beatles.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a comfort. It's like a blankie for like a little kid. Like, that's my blankie.
I
know what I mean?
That. I totally get that. Yeah, going back to the roots of like what made you inspired is like a really comforting experience.
Yeah. Yep. That's my story.
Gotcha.
When I think about like what my musical background is, it's hard to like trace back specific things. My family wasn't necessarily like, they didn't listen to a lot of music all the time. It was definitely very like, if music was played, it was mostly like Christian radio type music. So for me, music was singing. My family was all singers, and so like choir and things like that was just kind of what my family did. And not that they forced me into it or anything. It's just kind of is something I knew I loved from an early age. And I think it took probably until high school and like really getting into music outside of the religious aspect of things. Getting into more radio hits and things like that, where I started to kind of branch out. I think the first band that really like inspired me to start like pursuing music personally as something more than just a part of my life in general was probably Young the Giant. I would say they were my first like real entrance into the music world. I just loved the way that he used, harmonies and things like that in his tracks, and such a beautiful voice. And so then I kind of started to delve into music a little more in that direction. And Aaron definitely played a huge part in like showing me a lot of artists that he was listening to.
Right back at you too.
Right back at you. He's the one who showed me Hiatus Coyote, which is easily my favorite band now. We actually just went and saw them in Nashville last weekend.
Awesome.
Blessed.
Religious experience, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, vocal driven music has always been the thing for me. If there's harmonies, I'm there. Fleet Foxes was another huge one for me.
Yes, sir.
I used to tell Grant all the time when he'd ask me, how do you learn how to sing harmonies? I'm like, dude, I just sit in the car and sing Fleet Foxes like over and over again. And I just like pick each harmony. And that's like really how I learned how to like hear different harmonies and things and create them. So that's pretty much it.
Fleet Fox is truly a masterclass in harmonies.
Masterclass.
First time
Absolutely.
I heard White Winter Hymnal, I was like, okay, it's up from here.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that song.
Yeah. How about you, Aaron?
I, like the rest of us, went through phases. When I was a little kid, like a little kid, it was all rock and roll for me. I loved Led Zeppelin, Boston, pretty much anything else from that like time period. I don't know. I didn't know every single name of every song because I was a little kid, but I was blessed to have my older brothers because my family is kind of like Connor's. There's a lot of Christian music being played, not a lot of other things. I did like Boston a lot, but my brother is definitely the one I attribute my main music influence from at an early age. Because Grant was showing me stuff. I'd get a hand-me-down iPod. It would already have songs downloaded.
There you go.
I'd go through the ones, find the ones I liked. And like I said, for a while, it was just straight, pure rock and roll. But middle school, probably, I started listening to rap music. I don't know, just whatever was popular at the time. I know I liked Mac Miller a lot. But at the same
Drake
time,
era. It
was Drake era.
It was the rise of Drake.
Yeah, and I don't know. I definitely was more. I don't know. I listened to a lot of Lil Wayne and a lot of Mac Miller and Wiz Khalifa too, actually. Which I I don't really listen to Wiz anymore, to be honest. But
Mm-hmm.
nothing against him. I don't really listen to Wiz anymore. I used to love him. In high school, I started listening to Hiatus Coyote because of a friend that showed him to me, and then that kind of spurred my love of like neo soul and R&B and stuff. Not that I didn't like it before, but I didn't realize like how many different like subgenres and stuff there was,
Right.
and like how many different crazy places it can go. And once you start looking into that, it's a really, that one genre in itself is just so much. It's such a big umbrella. But yeah, and then from there, it's been kind of just an eclectic mix of everything. I don't really listen to Led Zeppelin so much anymore. But like Connor, my favorite band is Hiatus Coyote still since high school. And seeing them the other day was amazing. So
Yeah, I can't imagine.
other artists I really like, as far as rappers go, I really like Jid. I think he's one of the best lyricists like of this generation, probably. There's a lot I could cite, but I'm not trying to just give a long ass list. So
Name every artist on Spotify.
yeah,
Yeah, all
literally
of them.
every artist. I'm a J. Cole fan. I like to keep it humble. I like J. Cole. I also like Kendrick, but you know, yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah, I was lucky enough to see Jid when he came to Louisville, like on one of his first tours, and he had brought like all his friends to open up for him for that show. So I was like, that was really real of him. It's like, who wouldn't do that? That was awesome.
Was that Headliners by chance?
It was.
I was at that show.
Yeah.
It was a Tuesday night. Headliners was just sold out to the max.
Yeah.
And they did one of his biggest songs at the end, and it like tripped the power in Headliners. Like the power went out for a minute.
Yeah.
Because they were going so hard. It was one of the best shows I've been to. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, I went there with Trap King Kai and
Nice.
my friend
yeah.
Brad, and yeah, we had luckily, it luckily wasn't like too hard to get tickets, but now I'm sure like he doesn't play 500 cap rooms anymore.
Yeah, definitely not.
So,
Probably not.
yeah. So I'd love to hear how, and we'll start with Trey again, how you got started playing your instrument and your relationship with that instrument.
Yeah, this is a good story. When I was in fourth grade, iconic movie came out called School of Rock.
Let's go.
And I have a sister that's 20 years older than me. So we used to do like date nights where she would like come pick me up from my parents' house and we would do something fun.
Mhm.
And we went to see School of Rock in the theater and then got some ice cream or whatever afterward. And I watched that movie and I was like, I want to play drums. Like it just clicked. You know, I had no musical background whatsoever. You know, at this point in time, I'm still kind of like rerunning Bruce's albums for the 100th time, but I didn't really have any idea of like I can play music. So whatever, you know, I started, as kids do, started talking about it and saying, you know, I would love to have drums. And then for Christmas that year, my parents got one of these like cheapo Walmart starter first act drum sets
Oh, yeah.
and some drum lessons. And I just went after it, man. Like went after it. Probably took lessons for a year or so, nothing crazy, just the basics, and then started playing along to the songs with my headphones. And that's how I got started. It was kind of slow at first. And then what really escalated my musicianship was in sixth grade. You're signing up for classes in middle school and they offered band, right? And you don't have to have any concert band. You don't have to have any background. You just go in there and you'll pick an instrument and they get you started.
That's awesome.
So I got into band, middle school band, and, you know, put my name in the hat for percussion. I wanted to be in the drum section and I got it. And that's where I was like, oh yeah, this is sick. Cause there's like this whole world of drums, right? It's not just a drum set. Like there's all these different little things you can do percussively. And that's where I really started to, I think, get my skills kind of escalating. But still very much a beginner in all respects. High school comes around and they offer marching band. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. It seems cool. And I got on drumline. I was playing the marching snare. And that's where you really start to get chops in your hands.
Yeah.
Like there's just no way around it. Your hands get really strong and really fast. And you can start to do a lot of different things control-wise with the sticks. And I played the marching snare for 2 years. And then I played the quads or the tenors, which is the 4 drums. I played those for my second 2 years. My senior year, me and Grant were the 2 tenor players. So that's kind of where we struck up a pretty strong friendship. But during those marching band years, I got exposed to a lot of drumming and continued to fall in love with it. I actually stepped away from the drum set for a few years, kind of at the end of middle school, beginning of high school, because I was so into the like concert band, marching band type of a vibe. Through that experience, you get exposed to like a lot of true music lovers, right? Because that's what marching band and concert band attract in high school, is the kids that are really into instruments. And so I got involved with kids that were like playing in bands, you know what I mean? Like outside of school. And me and Grant caught that bug, and we started goofing around with some other kids from the marching band, like snow days. We're just going to meet up and like play instruments and whatnot. And we're like struggling through it, but we're figuring it out type of a deal. And by the end of high school, like I was fully in on the rock band, like the idea of a rock band. It was just like the coolest thing ever. I mean, this is for me, that's like 2010, 2011, 2012. So this idealistic, you know, the old school band that makes it, right, is still like something you strive for. I think it's a lot different today, but like the old school rock and roll band that makes it was like, oh man, this would be really cool to do.
Oh yeah.
You know, and you strive for that, and you just we wanted to play music, and we wanted to play shows, and we wanted to rock out. I mean, at this point in time, I think my biggest influence musically was Cage the Elephant, because it was like they're from Kentucky and they're riding a huge wave of like, you know, just old school rock and roll. So that was it for me, man. I came up through the marching band, came up through the concert band, and found music as a whole, like through that experience. And I'm grateful for it. At the time, I kind of hated it, I guess, because it was a very disciplined environment, and I was anti-authority, anti-discipline. But looking back, I'm incredibly thankful for the experience, because it gave me the foundation that I needed to, like, it's funny. Occasionally I'll run into like people from marching band in high school, or band directors from middle school, high school, and the majority of those folks aren't playing music anymore. Like that was a phase for them, and they were fine players at that time. You know, like some of these kids were really good at their instruments, and they haven't touched it in 10 years. And I've never stopped. And I think it's attributed to, you know, having that strong background of like, there's so much potential with music. I just honestly fell in love with it. So that's been my relationship with the drums. I don't play every day anymore. I'm not striving to be the greatest drummer ever. I like to use it as a way to exercise my brain and my creativity. It's therapeutic for me, and it's a way to be social. I try to keep my chops good enough so that Aaron's not pissed at me because I'm not playing well. But I have a little more perspective on it now. It's I'll never stop playing, but I'm also, you know, I'm not trying to be the next Vic Firth.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But that's me.
That's awesome. I just imagined Aaron as like the band director from Whiplash.
Just
on you. Just like,
There were times that Grant got kind of like that, but no, I'm just kidding.
How about you, Connor?
All right. So for me, I mentioned a little bit earlier, but singing was always just part of my life growing up. So, you know, it was always there for me. My voice was my main instrument always, for sure. I think around late middle school, early high school was when I first got a guitar and was like feeling the interest in, you know, playing along with the song and, you know, maybe writing something myself and figuring that out. Thought I wanted to play guitar, thought I wanted to be that cool lead guitar singer dude. And then the band kind of started happening. And we got to a place where we were like, well, we need a bass player. And I was like, well, I'll do it. Like, you know, I'll hop on there. And I just kind of never looked back. I just fell in love with it from there. I think for me, you know, bass it scratched an itch of the melodic side of my brain that guitar never fully did, I guess, or at least I could never get good enough to do. I've gotten better over time, but there's just something about the bass tone and using my ear that I developed over, you know, my entire life singing, that just really appealed to me, and just kind of feeling out bass lines. And it's an instrument that doesn't sit out in the front a lot. And I think that we kind of developed this interesting style, among the band of having very melodic, very melodic songs throughout all of the instruments in a way that I don't feel like a lot of bands do. Everything is playing very melodically at the same time a lot of the times. And I just fell in love with that kind of style, I guess. But yeah, no, the second I touched the bass, really, I just fell in love with it. And now I play it all the time. That's my favorite instrument for sure. Yeah. That's pretty much it.
I really, I love the pocket that the bass sits in, and it's such a vital. I mean, it's like there's the drums, and then it's just like drum and bass are just like the rocks of like the band. And I've really enjoyed playing bass myself over the years. I like started like doing it, like playing that role more often just the past like 3 years, and I love it. It's just a whole new world.
Something I never expected was like options. Like you don't feel like you have options on the bass until you're playing and you're realizing like, oh, I'm covering multiple things here. Like I can play melodically and I can also cover, rhythms, and I can add on top of what he's playing, and I can add on top of what he's playing, and it can all fit because it has to be there. The bass is going to be there regardless. So I don't know. I did fall in love with that aspect of it, just being able to, it's not out front, but it plays off of everything else. And I really like that. Just getting to listen and translating that into something,
I feel like it's highly more dynamic than people realize.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're playing with your ear a lot more with bass than you think. Sometimes you're just kind of holding it down. Certain songs are kind of like that, but yeah, it definitely, you are feeling out everything else as the bass player, I feel like, and kind of trying to set that tone from what you're hearing.
Absolutely.
And, I love that part of it. So.
Awesome. How about you, Aaron?
Well, I was in piano lessons when I was like very young. It was like more strict piano lessons, so they were all about like your back being straight and your technique being perfect and stuff. And as a little kid, I didn't give a shit about that, so I wanted to quit. Eventually, after several years, I did stop. Just because I think my parents thought that I'd eventually like it, and then I just didn't. And they were like, okay, well, we're not going to keep paying for this. But I'm grateful for it because it did give me like a very early experience of like just having my hands on the keys. And we had a piano at home. It's, nothing crazy special, but it was like a baby, whatever, the stack up, the upright piano against the wall. And so, I could, even after being out of piano lessons, I could go and sit and like play it whenever I wanted, which was nice. At some point, I started liking jazz, bro. I don't know when, but I started liking jazz like when I was in like 6th or 7th grade. And so I started looking up like videos on like how to play jazz songs. And I started getting like kind of good for an 8th grader, and eventually I did ask, I was like, can I get back in piano lessons? And they were like, well, only if you are actually going to do it and like practice and shit. And so that's kind of how I got into piano. Like the rest of that story doesn't really need to be told. You see how it went from there. I took lessons for a few years, and my brother though, as far as like just musicianship in general, I definitely still attribute that to my brother, because while I was in piano lessons at a very early age, like I didn't know that I wanted to be a musician until Grant was doing that. And then as soon as he was doing that, there wasn't another option in my head. I was like, that's fucking cool. That's what I want to do. Like I'm going to be a pesky ass little brother following you around until I figure out my own way to do it. And that's what it was. And luckily his friends were really cool and like, were fine with me being around, which was really nice.
Yeah.
And a lot of those friends like are still my friends to this day, which is awesome. But yeah, like the formalities, Logan, Gavin, and Shane, and Trey too was there. But yeah, it was honestly like for a long portion of my life, it was like having multiple older brothers, just because I could go and hang out with Grant, and then if he was annoyed at me or whatever, he'd like go somewhere else, and there would always be still somebody like to talk to in like the garage or wherever we were, maybe jam a little bit in the basement, who knows.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a pretty simple story for me, to be honest. I just watched my older brother and I was like, I want to monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
Grant's also the type, if he's playing something on an instrument and you're anywhere in the vicinity, he's going to get you on something that he wants filled, and he's going to tell you what to play.
Right.
Exactly. There was definitely plenty of that. I should have mentioned that. There's plenty of times Grant was like, I need you to come sit on the drums while I practice guitar. And yeah.
Yeah, Grant was bringing So to put in perspective, I'm 30 years old, and Aaron, you're
26.
26. So Grant would bring Aaron around like when we're partying hard in high school, right? And Aaron's kind of still a young cat at that point.
Or 13,
like we're living the rock and roll high school band lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I tried to look out for Aaron a little bit back in the day because he was young, but he definitely got exposed to the what you could live like in a band.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of things I didn't ever think I'd see even like as an adult, but good times, man. I'll tell you what.
There you go.
You guys partied hard as fuck.
We got it out of the system early.
That's
Yeah.
good. That's good. Yeah.
We got it out of the system early.
Yeah. So, you guys call yourself Kush Rock.
Yes, we do.
I'm curious of how you have developed and defined that signature sound that you guys have curated.
That's a funny one. Kush Rock, I mean, it started kind of as a joke. I mean, it actually did start as a joke, and then it kind of just caught on because we couldn't. We started in 2015, and we continued to be active as a band until 2021. And almost like every year, the sound changed completely.
Mm-hmm.
We went through so many different genres.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So people kept on asking us what genre we were, and we got tired of being like, well, we're this with the mix
Yes.
of that, with the mix of this.
What genre
with-
are you? Yes.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much.
The name came out of necessity, truly. I mean, it was like, it's exactly that. I mean, it was like, we just didn't know what to say to anybody because it was like,
Yeah.
you can ask anybody who's a fan of Church Friends, like, what's your favorite Church Friends songs? And they're probably all going to say a different song because
Yeah.
they're all like
Yep.
so different from each other that, I mean, they kind of fall within kind of groups in a way. We all have our styles, and because there's multiple writers, you can kind of tell who's writing what. But at the end of the day, it's like there's just so many different styles and vibes going on. We had to come up with something else because
Right.
Well, to clarify, like the word Kush, we should start with a definition. We're not like a weed band, right? It's not Sublime. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah,
The
true.
word Kush was just heavy in our vernacular
adjective.
at this time.
Uh-huh.
We were
Yeah.
referring to anything that we liked as Kush, like, oh, it's Kush, dude. Like, dude,
Yeah.
have you heard Anderson .Paak's new album, bro? It's Kush. You know what I mean? So
Gotcha.
we were like, what's our music? It's just good music. And so we just started calling it Kush Rock.
Got
I
it.
mean-
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah, the music is good vibes.
Good vibes.
I don't think we
Kush.
necessarily identify. I mean, we founded Kush Rock and then we laid it to rest, I think. And now we just play music.
Now you
Yeah.
just play music.
This is good music.
Gotcha. So, how have you guys balanced like creating your own music to being like a backup band for so many artists across the city?
Oh, I'd love to answer that one. If that's okay, guys.
Yeah,
Go for
absolutely.
it.
I obviously write and perform my own stuff and then also perform with other people with the same band. A lot of the times we switch people out just depending on availabilities and stuff. But honestly, it's really good for me personally because I do get into phases of like writing a bunch all at once, producing a bunch all at once, getting it all ready, and then, just anywhere in the process. It's not exactly like a point in the process every time, but at some point, like I'll take a little break, and then sometimes that break lasts longer than I think it's going to. And so it's a lot of time for me, it's really good to have somebody that's like, hey, we got a show this day, we got to practice this day and that day and be ready for it. And it kind of just gets my chops going up again because I'm like, okay, I got to get myself together and get practiced again. And then as soon as I start playing piano, it's like, okay, well, here's a little idea based on what I was doing there. Let me go get in the studio real quick. And then before I know it, I got, a whole fresh pack of new beats or songs or whatever. So for me, it's really nice. It sometimes feels like I'm like overdoing myself at times, but overall, I think it's definitely like healthy for me, like good for me. I know a lot of people have better work ethic than me. I try my hardest, but with daily life and everything like that, I don't always have time to sit down in the studio every day, so it's like, it's definitely a nice way to just kick my ass into the door. And then once I'm in, it's like, I kind of feel the same way about the gym. The hardest part about going to the gym is going to the gym. Like once you get there, it's not a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like once you're there, it's like, okay, I'm here. But like the drive there, you know what I mean? Like leaving your
Yeah.
house, it's like, oh shit, like this is what I'm about to go do. I better go get my shit together. But once you get in the room, sometimes music feels the same way occasionally. I love music. I really do. But sometimes it feels that way. And so, just getting your ass kicked into the door, it's a good thing for you. It's like, okay, now I'm here. I'm sitting at the piano. Like I'm going to make something, and whether it's good or not doesn't matter, because I made something today and tomorrow I'll make something else, and then eventually one of them I'll like, whatever. That's how I see it though.
Yeah, I mean, if I could chime in, I'll speak on my experience, the evolution from us being like a quote unquote band to switching out where we back up other artists, right? So when we played as a band, I mean, I felt like I got all the experiences out of that I needed to. It scratched every itch for me. I have a ton of amazing memories, and I don't necessarily need to pursue things for my own sake anymore. So for me to be able to play drums for all these other people and help them bring their vision to life and help them experience some of the things on stage that we've already experienced time and time again, it's a way to be of service to other people around the city and to just stay active with it. Like it's incredibly fulfilling to go out there and play somebody else's songs and they've never played with a band before, or they've never heard their songs other than just beats. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's like so cool to see their reaction and feel how much they enjoy it. It's like I'm chasing that feeling now of like somebody brings us some songs, and I'll tell you what the best feeling is a rapper will bring us a song and we're listening to it like, bro, there's no way we can translate this to instruments. And then somehow we figure it out and it's like, man, that was problem solving. It feels great.
Yeah.
Like it feels great. So I've really enjoyed this phase for where I'm at in my life. It's perfect. Like I don't need to do it for any type of like self-gain anymore. It's just, it's cool to be of service to other people. And I've met more people doing this than probably we ever did before. Like, it's just a lot of fun. And we still get to play our stuff when we want to. Like, it's not like we can't play our own stuff.
Well, it's nice because it keeps it fresh.
It keeps it fresh. I mean, we all got burned out doing the band thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, it's a hell of a grind. And this is a lot more relaxed. I think sometimes we're playing a lot better than we did, even though like, when we were a band, we lived in a house together. We would practice sometimes like 4 nights a week, 2-3 hours each time. And it's like, we were just,
Ridiculous.
we were breaking our backs and not seeing, or not feeling the rewards. And now it's like, we come in relaxed, we come in fresh, and it just, everybody's staying in their lane, like playing the part that the song needs, right?
Yeah.
Instead of like trying to make the best song ever for the band, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll add on to that. It like, the Church Friends experience, I feel like I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I feel like it kind of taught us and led into what we're doing now. We always, we had multiple writers. So, for us making music together it was collaborative, but it also was someone bringing their song to the group and saying, this is what I want you to play. And then we would take it and church friendify it from there. Yeah. Doing that for so long and like getting to know each other musically so well, and really like, really cutting our teeth on that. Like Trey said, doing 3-4 practices a week, it was ridiculous, destroyed us. But, at the end of the day, I think that it made us all better musicians, certainly, especially with each other. And that has translated so perfectly. We took our little break and we came back and decided to do the collective thing and all, kind of have our own ventures. And I think what we learned was all of that work just kind of flowed perfectly into what we're doing now. We have the experience of having people bring their songs in and having to make them, church friend songs. And we're not necessarily doing the same thing now, but we're kind of realizing that, as much as people want us to create their music the way they have it recorded when they come to us, they also want a band that feels like they've been playing together. And I think that that's what has really made this whole experience really, really kind of genuinely something special, is that none of us are coming in without knowing each other ahead of time. This isn't just, 10 random musicians meeting together trying to make something happen. It's, we all have that musical foundation together. And when we go to translate it, we say, oh, I'm hearing you do that. I already know what I'm going to do because I'm hearing you do that. And I already know. There's no guessing anymore. It's just, it feels so natural. It does feel like we're all better musicians because of it. And, we're all having much more fun. I know part of the downfall of being in a band, and dedicating everything to being in a band is that it does kind of put you in this competitive mind space where, everyone in the band is separately, but also together trying to make it happen. And that creates this mindset of just work.
Yeah.
And I think we realized that that's just not, it's not the reason any of us got into music, was to work. Yeah, we true. It sounds ridiculous, but we work at our instruments, we work to be better, but I think we just got to a place where we were like, what are we, why are we trying to sell ourselves past what we even feel comfortable, let's just have fun with this. And that's what we've been doing. It's been great.
You said something about competitivism, whatever. I wanted to add on to that because it's not only that, it also felt like, and I was young and I didn't have the best mindset about everything, but I was definitely competitive with other bands in the scene. And even if they were my friends, it was still a friendly competition to see who could get the best shows, the best placements.
Right. Oh yeah.
Or you're comparing yourself. You're comparing yourself to
everyone else the whole time.
The difference now is that it's like we're down to work with whoever, and every time we see somebody doing well, it's just like, oh hell yeah, hopefully we get a chance to play with them someday if we haven't already. It's like it's not like oh shit, like we wanted that spot.
Right.
It still happens for me time to time for my personal. Sets, my personal gain, but again, friendly competition, and I still see things like a very different way just from playing with everybody else in the scene. It's just like, okay, somebody gets a spot that I wanted, it more than likely I've probably either met them or worked with them, and I'm just like, okay, well they're cool as shit, their music's really fucking good, so the hell am I gonna say, do better next time. But but yeah. Lots of love and lots of respect to the Louisville music scene, especially the hip hop scene right now. It's really booming. Also, we didn't say yet, but shout out to Trap King Kai because a very, very necessary part of this story.
Yeah, we're not here without Trap King Kai. Let's be clear about that. We were done. I didn't touch an instrument in a year.
We hadn't even talked about getting back together. Trap hit us up in the DMs on the Church Friends direct message, and he was like, "Hey, we're doing Poor Castle. What was it? 2022."
2021 actually. 2021 he came. Well, we had met Trap because we were briefly on the same local label with him. And he just he didn't know what we were doing or anything. He just asked if we could be a band for his Poor Castle set. And I think when I saw that message, I saw a little glimmer of hope of oh wait, maybe we can come back. I think part of me was maybe we can come back as a band. And then we did that with Trap and realized oh wait, no, this is where it's at.
Yeah, but we all wanted to play music with each other again. We just didn't know how to say that to each other. Or what form that would take, or how that would ever work. And so he kicked us into shape.
Guardian angel of sorts, I guess.
Yeah, for real. Awesome. He also dropped Blaze in the mix, did he not?
Yeah, he connected us with Blaze, and that was the first venture out of the original four of us. Of we don't have to do everything just with Grant, Trey, Aaron, and Connor. We can work with other people, and Blaze got in the mix heavy. And I think he's brought out we're like you were saying earlier, we're all trying to impress Blaze. Yeah. So he brings out a good side of you as a musician. And he runs a tight rehearsal, dude. We had a real problem when we were playing as a band before. Our rehearsals just dragging on and not being efficient. And Blaze runs it like an ensemble rehearsal, and I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, me too.
We just get right to it, and we get the work done and get the product where we're happy with it. But Trap and Blaze really helped us expand our minds, even if they didn't know that. And then over the course of the years since that Poor Castle show, I think we've added 4 additional people to the regular rotation. So we went from 4 to 8. Basically, and I consider all 8 of us to be church friends at this point. And we kind of rotate in and out.
There's even a couple more people that have had one-off shows with us.
Yeah, right. It's very loose now, very loose for sure.
Well, and it's really nice too because, like we mentioned, we used to be super, super tight about practicing on time and being at shows, and we absolutely would never play something without all 4 of us present. And,
right.
And there's some good things in there, what I just said, for sure. There's nothing wrong with practicing a lot and having your whole band for the show. But at the same time, once you kind of cross the line of okay, this is a collective, we're going to just kind of take shows where we can and play them, and whoever's available to play, great. If you're not, no pressure, whatever. And it's a very relaxed, feel, and nobody, you know, is mad at each other. Also, me and Grant are brothers, so you can imagine,
Right.
like, and we're close in age too. It's not like we're like far apart in age. So we've fought our whole lives. I love him to death. He loves me to death, but we fought our whole lives.
Oh, yeah.
So you can imagine, yeah, they've seen it. But you can imagine like the arguments and shit that we would get into. So it's like, it's kind of nice to just be like, yeah, Grant, like, I'd love to have you, but if you're busy, no worries, you know, like, and same for his stuff, like, because he'll do shows and have me play piano or whatever, and it's like, love to have you, but if you're busy, no worries. And I'm like, cool. I try to always be there, but if I can't, I know he's not gonna be pissed, you know. But
And what's great about that is we've always known so many musicians and like so many good musicians in our lives, but we've never really had the opportunity to play with them. So this has opened up that door. Like we've been able to ask more people to play with us, and it's made us better musicians in turn. It's made them better musicians in turn.
Build relationships,
build better relationships with people. You know, I think the idea that we've kind of stumbled upon here, not that it's necessarily a new thing, but you know, I think we've kind of realized that we can grow this into something that's bigger than ourselves necessarily. Like this is something that can be, you know, a benefit to the city past just what Church Friends is, you know, like this we can keep adding people into the fold and, you know, and just have a big network of musicians who all know each other and play well with each other. And there's just nothing but benefits from that. So,
Yeah, I totally agree. I found some parallels in that with my journey as an audio engineer. I went in to help my bandmates, you know, record their own music. And then suddenly I found, you know, and then maybe record some of my own music. And then I find I'm getting a lot of fulfillment, like manifesting people's music or helping people realize their music. And that totally overtook whatever I wanted to do for myself. And it became, I felt, bigger, bigger than myself. And being able to help other musicians realize like that. And like just going from like a musician to musician as an audio engineer, like they're in that phase of that super motivated, you know, they're in the middle of their project, and like you kind of feed off of that energy, and it like it helps you, you know, stay motivated yourself and keep energized. Which
I was gonna say, you do a really good job of that. From experience of recording here, you do a great job of really feeding off that energy, and it's awesome.
I appreciate that a lot. So I'd love to hear about the first album, Home Cookin', and how that came to be. How was I'm curious about the recording process and like how that went together.
Right?
So,
it was all on 8-track.
I'd heard that a while ago, and I'm very curious about just a brief story on like how Home Cookin' was made.
We're missing the main link to this piece.
Yeah, we're missing the chef.
We're missing the chef.
Just get him on FaceTime. And like, let me tell you.
Home Cooking was definitely Grant's little brainchild. It started with him. He was involved from start to finish, you know, mixed, mastered, everything. And that was his, I mean, you can hear it on the album. That was his kind of like dive into exploring sounds and making sounds. And, you know, using pedals to warp things and create new sounds. He would definitely be able to go into more depth on that. But I mean, we did it all on just a very simple, his little red 8-track recorder that like half the tracks probably didn't even really record on anyway. And we were just kind of using it just to, you know, plug, you know, from one end of the computer.
He's doing everything on this old Dell laptop through Audacity, which is a free software. And basically how he's explained it to me is like, if you're doing something on Audacity versus Logic, it's going to take you 10 times as long to do it on Audacity versus Logic. And the three of us were sitting here. It's not like he couldn't afford to go get a Mac and get Logic. And we're like, yo, dude, we've been working on this album for like 2 years, literally 2 years, bro. Like maybe we can just like finish it on Logic.
Maybe we can get off the 8-track tape.
Bro, this cat Grant was so stubborn with us. Like he was going to be damned if he didn't finish this thing on Audacity. And he did. Like he spent hours and hours, and he's told me these funny stories of where he'd be sitting in like Roosters by himself with his Dell and his headphones, just like eating and drinking beers and making this album. And he's like, they probably thought I was like some autistic kid, like, you know, sitting in the back by himself. And he did that for a couple of years. And what he got was, I think, something that at the time we were all very proud of it. I still listen to it. I'm like, this is cool. It's cool for what it is. Like, super DIY, very experimental. I mean, he's got stuff like he's got a sitar on there.
Wow.
Like it's all over the place. And even Connor got kind of experimental. Connor's got a track on there that
Oh yeah, floating.
it's like a freestyle of sorts, basically. Vocal freestyle. We did some stuff that was just straight live recording. There's an instrumental track on there called Rice and Lentils, and it was literally just a live jam that Grant recorded in the basement. And we're like, oh, this little snippet of like this 20-minute jam is kind of fire.
Right.
Like it sounded like elevator music, but like turned up. You know what I mean? Like if I'm on an elevator and that track comes on, I'm like, oh yeah, this is sick. Like, where's this elevator going?
Yeah.
And we just threw it on there. I mean, we were just having fun with it, man. It was a cool time. And we like Grant would be showing us the updates as the tracks would come along, and we would sit around and listen to him and smoke and listen to him and be like, get really excited. Like thinking that like this home cooking album is our ticket.
Yeah.
Like this is our ticket. And it's just that whole process is exciting.
Yeah.
Like just seeing something go from start to finish with all the different techniques we were using and watching Grant's skills as a producer like progress as time went on. We're all kind of just sitting there kind of in awe. Like, dude, this guy's got a touch. He's working with like basic tools here.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanna see like the work that Grant put in, just listen to our 2 albums. It's Grant recorded both of them, so you know that is the progression. You can see where he started and where he went.
And then listen to his solo stuff.
And then listen to his
still
solo stuff.
he's still
where he's at currently.
It's insane.
It's even another level up. Yeah. Also, I'd just like to say that I think that Home Cooking is like, first of all, the band was formed through that record. We didn't form before that record or after it. We formed in the middle of that. While the recording process was happening is when the band formed. Grant was recording those songs. And he was like, Aaron, I've been hearing you play piano, and I think I want you to play piano on this. And that's when he realized that because I sat down and actually did okay. And he was like, oh, shit, this could work. And then he was like, do you think Connor might want to sing? And I was like, I'm sure he would, you know, and it went from there. Yep. The true testament, though, that record is a true testament of my brother's, like, unwillingness to take any shortcuts, basically. Like Trey said. Yep. My man bought a whole ass sitar, learned how to play it. Learned how to play a sitar, bro. Like bought one online and learned how to play a sitar so that he could have a couple extra background sounds. Like he could have used a synthesizer. He could have looked up online a sample. He could have got an effect pedal for his guitar that sounds just the same. Yeah. No.
He drove long distance to buy that thing.
There's no shortcuts for Grant. He wanted the Space Echo sound. He went and bought a Space Echo, learned how to fix it, learned how to do maintenance on it so that he could have the Space Echo sound. It's not an emulator when you hear it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and with my brother, it never will be, you know, like there's very few things that he's willing to emulate. And I love that about him and about his production too. It's really cool. And that's the whole 8-track thing. He wanted it to sound old school. He wanted it to sound like a little bit rough, like it was on an 8-track, and in his mind, there's no way to emulate that besides just doing it on an 8-track, you know? Right. And I like really have come to appreciate that. While at the time it was just like, why are we doing this?
Yeah. But he also got the 8-track for free. And there's one thing about Grant, man, if it's for free, he's gonna get his money out of it.
I think it's also worth noting too on that first album, you know, on Home Cooking, a lot of the instrumentation even is not like, it's not the Church Friends that is now, you know, like Deer Park was pretty, you know, we all had our instruments at that point and we were playing our things and, you know, we're playing the track, you know, as we would play it live. But Home Cooking, a lot of it's just Grant. A lot of, you know, like Aaron mentioned, a lot of that was kind of in process before, you know, either of us was even really brought into the fold. So yeah, Home Cooking is definitely, you can chalk that up to Grant fully at this point, really. I think other than a few, you know, additional things. But
I think one of the big realizations we had in the process of that recording is that Grant and Connor sang well together. Because Grant had just started singing. He literally had just started singing, and I think he has told me this. He was learning a lot from watching Connor sing, right? And then they started singing together, and Connor's kind of giving him some pointers and getting him up to speed. And it's like, oh, wow, these two voices sound pretty good together. And that was like the catalyst for Deer Park, which is like, that's when
definitely.
Grant, Connor, and Aaron start singing heavy together. And that was a big part of our sound on the next album was the three voices. And also each one of them would sing lead at either different points in the song or on different songs. So the songs change up feel from track to track as you get a different lead singer.
Right.
And I'm trying to think if the timeline's correct, but I think some of that influence was Grateful Dead because Grateful Dead did that. Grateful Dead would have like either Pigpen singing lead or Jerry or Bob, sometimes Phil, like, you know, and it changes the whole feel of the band based on who's the lead singer. And that was one thing that I think we all had in common is we hated bands that had albums where every single song sounds the same.
Yeah.
Like it's like a cookie cutter thing. And we wanted to avoid that. And home cooking, you get a taste of that, of like trying to keep it fresh. And Deer Park is really like, you could cut it up into almost 3 EPs based on who the lead singer is. You know?
Yeah, I think we realized too that like, you know, with each of us writing our own songs, we were writing a lot of the parts in our own voices. And so it just made sense once we got there. It was like, well, this just doesn't sound right. You know, like you wrote it with your voice in mind, you know? And so, yeah, we didn't want to shy away. You know, we didn't want to bring parts to the band and just be like, okay, well, this is your part. This is your part. This is your part. You know, obviously we divided up this way. It was, you know, let's try it this way. And if it doesn't work, you know, maybe we'll switch parts around and go back to more original lineup. But we never really shied away from swapping around.
That's how I started singing at all in the first place was because one song at one point, I don't even remember which one, but you were like, hey, this isn't your register and not mine.
Like it made sense for your voice.
Yeah, and he was like, you aren't sounding bad. Like, do you want to just sing it? And I was like, shit, I guess, you know, like, and ever since then, like, I'm not a big singer. You know, I do okay. I can hold my own. But yeah, I don't know. That was
definitely piano is like Mountain Dew. I mean,
fair enough.
Mountain Dew in the morning. I'm playing piano on that song. It makes no sense. I don't play piano.
I'm playing bass. It's crazy.
Wow.
Just like
they switched over a lot.
We were just writing that song, and like, you know, for some reason I was on the piano that day. I don't know why, but
we had to like.
But I wrote a part, and we were like, "Oh, this is the part for the song." So then it was just like what we did. We just ran with it. You know, it wasn't.
Awesome.
Oh well, Aaron's going to take that and morph into something else. It was like, all right, well, you're going to play piano on the song.
Gosh, I played bass on like 2 of those songs, and the guitar on like 1 or 2 of them. And
they switched around a lot for the live performances too. We would write that into the set, so like we if Aaron and Connor are switching instruments in between songs, me and Grant would do some type of instrumental transition so that we never wanted to stop playing, basically was how it was. We got to the point where we really didn't stop playing. And somebody
Our theory was if you stop playing, people leave.
You can't give people the chance to go outside and smoke a cigarette.
Yeah, I talk about that all the time, especially in like, in hardcore and like in punk scene. It's all about transitions are everything. Like just keep playing is the biggest one, but like at least just getting transitions down, avoiding the stopping to tune and then people just waiting around for those few seconds, you know, where the singer has to tell a few jokes for a moment. And it's like, people are going to go outside for sure. You're going to, it's momentum.
Absolutely.
It's all about momentum with a set, and a good like 25-minute set feels like 10, you know?
Right.
That's it right there.
Yeah. And if you leave them wanting more, it's way better than overstaying your welcome as well.
Absolutely, yes.
You don't want to overstay your welcome. It's like we have all been there when a set drags. And you're like, oh my god. But if it ends up right there, it's an art. There's an art to creating the right set that it doesn't drag too long. It's not too little. Just and not stopping any point is huge.
Yeah, that's spot on. We went through a short jam band phase, and I think we were the kings of a 20-minute jam band set.
Yes.
Like
20 minutes,
20-minute jam band set.
We had songs where we would swap instruments as the song was still happening.
Yeah, within songs.
Because we would be playing it that long. Or we would like, you know, put songs right into each other in a way that we would have to swap while we're still playing. But
we took big influence from the Grateful Dead, just like sandwiching songs within each other, and so we would just take it to the next level and like
Or sandwiching cover songs within our own.
Right.
Sandwiching cover songs
Right.
within our own, and then it'd be like one song goes to another song, goes to a third, goes back to the first, goes back to the
Yeah.
second, goes to a
Crazy
third,
stuff.
throw a cover in the middle, and like
Wow.
And it was fun as fuck, but
Oh,
I'm not sure
absolutely.
how many people were actually like there for it.
Yeah, it was fun for us.
Yeah, we had a good time.
I
That
think
was for sure.
we really wanted to capture that like Grateful Dead, like every show you go to is going to be a little different vibe.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you're going to go
Facts.
to it, even if you're hearing the same songs, it's going to be different because
Yeah.
they're going to play it, they're going to transition into it a different way, and you're going to be like, oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, you also have to be as big as Grateful Dead for that to really matter.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
but
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, shouts out to Grant. If you're listening, man, I'm glad your 8-track tapes didn't get around any strong magnets during the process of home cooking, because that would have been
Man.
sad.
It was a nightmare.
Hope you got some more modern equipment, but if not, keeping it old school is cool. We're all about that. So let's talk about what we're here promoting today, besides positivity and love, of course. You all hosted an event at the Monarch with Schlube and had some guy record it and put together some footage that's going to be released, as well as an official Spotify and Apple Music release of the live event as well, correct?
That is
Yeah.
correct.
some guy.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what inspired that event, and can you tell us just a bit about, I'd love to maybe hear, introduce people to the Monarch. As I talk about the Monarch, I try to bring it up, and not many people have heard about that place just
Yeah,
yet.
it's definitely keeping it on the radar.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Monarch was, it felt like just a really good fit for what we've been doing.
Yep.
Mhm.
I think I can't really recall the first time or whatever it was that we all got introduced to it. But we played there a few times at this point, and basically it's different than a venue. Obviously, it's a listening room,
Mhm.
and it just really pairs well with what we're doing. And I think it pairs really well with live hip hop with a backing band.
Yeah.
Right. So live hip hop is one of these things where it's a touchy subject. A lot of people, I think don't like. A lot of people get tired of going to the shows where they're just seeing a hip hop artist rap over their own tracks. I'm in that boat. I love seeing a fresh performance with a band. Like
Yeah.
it just, you feel it. And I love hip hop. Like I've been to a million hip hop shows where there's no band and had a great time.
Oh, yeah.
But once I got turned on to like seeing hip hop artists with a live backing band, it's just like you can't go back.
Yeah.
And being able to do it at the Monarch where everybody's sitting down and listening intently to the lyrics and what's going on stage, it's I think it's rewarding for everybody involved. So we really liked the atmosphere at the Monarch and thought it was a good place for us to showcase artists. And so I think we arranged that Schlube show.
Yeah.
We just basically we're at the point now where if we want to play with somebody locally, we'll just ask if they want to do it. And if they think it's a good fit, we'll just start working on something. And we reached out to Schlube, and he was with it. And his music paired really well, I think, with what we were
really well.
with what we were trying to do. And so the Shay Risky band, Shayro, we opened up for it, and
Yeah.
it's just a really nice atmosphere. It's a lot of pressure, to be honest with you, because people are sitting there
Yeah.
and they're not distracted, right? It's not like a venue where people are going to get drinks or
Yeah.
they're talking to their friends or they're on their phones. Like people are sitting there with you in a small room, and it's just you and them for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know how, like Aaron as the front man of the band, I don't know how you do it. It's intense, but it's incredibly rewarding because you get the feedback right away.
Yeah.
I like it a lot, to be honest. It's very different, but I also you've worked with me enough. I don't make a lot of stand up and party songs. I wish I did. I respect the musicians that do a lot. But my songs are not always get hype songs. I've got a couple, but a lot of them are a lot more chill, little bit introspective, sitting back on the beat, kind of just vibing, having a good time, smoke sesh type songs.
Yeah.
Chilling in the car, whatever. So that vibe kind of fits really well for me, especially if I write a set for it. If I know that it's going to be that type of thing where people are sitting down and watching, then I can write a set specific to that where all the songs are going to be good for that vibe. And I enjoy it a lot. And the reason being is because I don't know. When I play different venues and different shows, I always enjoy it. But sometimes, people are dancing, people are like broken up into side conversations, leaving, coming back, getting drinks, whatever. And it's like kind of nice to just sit down and have everybody like tune in and listen.
Yeah.
And while it does add a little bit of pressure, like Trey said, it almost like, I don't know, it being there with the band kind of takes the pressure away from me, because I'm just like, I know if I fuck up, they sound amazing. So who cares? Not to really say who cares. I still try to do my best, but in the back of my head, that's what I'm thinking. I'm just like, if I forget a couple words or something, Blaze will take it away on the sax. Connor will do something cool with some background vocals. Like, we'll be fine. So especially knowing that everybody is like there to tune in to like the musicality of the show, instead of just looking for something to sing along to and dance to, and no hate to that whatsoever, because I love doing that at shows too. I'm not as good at writing music for that. But yeah, knowing that people are, that's kind of like what they're there for, kind of takes the pressure off me a little bit in a weird way. But I enjoy it. I like the sit down shows a lot, and I really like the Monarch. It's BYOB, so I can just show up with the little pint of Old Forester for the night. I can't complain.
Yeah.
You could feel the energy in that room like
Absolutely.
nowhere else.
I was going to say, it feels like a lot of venues, especially with, local bands and smaller shows and things like that, there's a social anxiety aspect to shows. And I feel like you can see it, like when you're on stage, you can see everyone out there. You can kind of tell when someone's like, I kind of want to dance to this, but no one else is dancing.
Yeah.
So I'm not really gonna do that. Or like, I'm digging this, but no one else is really hyped for it, so I'm not gonna show that. I'm not gonna be the one person who's out there showing that in the crowd. The Monarch takes all that away.
Mm-hmm.
It addresses it all up front, and they say, this is what we're here for, and everyone knows that's what they're here for going into it. So I think it kind of takes the pressure off from the crowd too. They don't feel like they're being judged by everyone else around them. They're all in the same boat. They just got told by one person, everyone needs to sit down and, not make, distractions for yourself. And, we're here for a show, and this is what it is. And, I think at first that was a little odd for us, just because we never experienced it before.
Mm-hmm.
But after doing it a couple times, we saw such extreme value in it, because it's just, the engagements that you get with your audience are just so much more. They're just deeper. You feel more
Super
engaged
intimate.
with them, and they feel more engaged with you.
It's the closest you're going to get to a tiny desk
To a tiny desk
here in
performance,
Louisville.
yeah.
That's a PSA to all the artists listening right now. That's the
for
closest
sure.
you're going to get.
Yeah. And you're almost guaranteed. I mean, there's people. Monarch has created this weird community where, even if someone doesn't really care about your music, they're there. I mean, they've developed this community of people who just love to go watch music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So even if it's not their flavor, they're still going to be there, and they're going to support you. Which is just such a rare thing.
Yep.
I feel like
Having
honestly.
somewhat of a built-in audience.
Yeah, it's being
refreshing.
in a band and like trying to sell yourself all the time. I feel like you're constantly hitting those walls where you're just like, I'm getting no feedback. Like I can't tell what the crowd thinks.
Even some of the small rooms in Louisville are too big for somebody starting off in music.
Sure.
The difference between playing a tiny room with 30 people in it and it's filled up versus a slightly bigger room. Like, let me put it in numbers. If you're playing a small room that has a 50-person capacity and there's 45 people in there, it feels like you just played to the biggest audience in the world versus you play a 100-person venue and there's 50 people there, which is more than the last time. It feels empty.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that contributes to the energy for sure. I think
the crowd feels that too. When
when
the crowd's empty, the crowd feels it.
People space out,
right?
From each other.
Yeah,
Yep.
It's the Monarch is the shows that I've watched there. It's like a spiritual experience because people are so engaged. You're so, what it is you're so present and whether the music is your thing or not, you're so in the present moment because all the distractions have been removed that it's like a spiritual experience. To me, it's very similar to like when I go to a Dead and Company show, how everybody is just so right there. Yeah. Like nobody's thinking about what's going on back at home or outside or what they're doing after the show. Like everybody
2 seats behind them. It's like,
everybody's just right there for the music. And that's the only thing going on right now. And in our society, we're struggling with places we can go where there's no distractions.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, the Dead and Co comparison is extremely high compliment from Trey.
It's a big compliment.
That's a big compliment from Trey.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's not a lot of things he compares to Dead and Co shows. So
Yeah.
huge shout out to Mark at the Monarch. We love what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We'll be back soon. Also, a huge shout out to Sloob for being in part of that show, because that was
Yeah, he
just a
killed
great
it.
night.
He
Yeah,
did a really
very
fine
good.
job.
he killed it. It was awesome. We all had a great time. So, and thank you for being there and for being that some guy
Yeah.
that was
Being
there to
some
record
guy,
it
yeah.
and get it
Yeah,
all
what you
captured.
did changed everything, man. I mean,
Honestly,
the
man, I
video
listen
is impeccable. Yeah.
Dude, I still can't believe how good the quality is, honestly.
Yeah.
I was very, very impressed when I first heard it. I was like, holy shit, this is like,
I've never heard us live before.
Well, you should have
Yeah.
seen our
That-
group.
that
You
was
should have
the
seen our
first-
group chat when he first sent the links to like the 9-person band. Everybody was like brain exploding emojis.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Like,
yeah.
Like the only time I'd ever heard us play as a band is like through someone's phone
Cell
on their
phone
Instagram
footage.
story, and
Yeah.
it just never
Right.
sound. So like to
Yeah.
actually hear us play and be able to be like, oh wow, that was good.
Yeah.
Like I've never been able to say that before. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
It's definitely
great.
one of our best performances, too.
Oh,
in my
easily.
opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing more from you guys. Yeah, that was and more shows at the Monarch and anywhere else in general. Yeah,
Hell
I'd
yeah.
love
Yeah,
to see
we'll definitely be doing it again.
July 19th, we'll be up at Zanzibar.
that. Okay,
So,
awesome.
yeah, that's
Back
the
to
next one coming
Z-Bar.
up. Back to Z-Bar.
Yeah.
It's
Are
been
you
a long
backing
time.
a certain artist or as your friend?
Yes. Our friend Madison, who actually sang with us at the Monarch, she's doing a show, and then she asked me to come open up. So there's a couple of us that are open up.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I'll be there. Like I said, July 19th. I think the show starts at like 7 or 8. There's
Awesome.
a poster. I posted it for anybody curious.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's the next time. And after that, I think it's like October or something. So
Awesome. Yeah, looking forward to that. So I'd love to hear about that show at the Monarch was like kind of to promote Breathe, right? Like the 3-song like EP.
more or
that came
less,
out?
it's kind of weird because I did release Breathe on Bandcamp a year ago.
Mhm.
Or a year before that show, exactly. It was, well, not exactly. It was like a month because I think I released it in April the year before. But after a year having it on Bandcamp, I decided it needed to be on Spotify, Apple Music, and stuff. I wanted to make it a little bit more accessible. And huge shout out to anybody that bought it on Bandcamp. I really appreciate that. Unlike Spotify and Apple Music, that money we know, but maybe not everybody does. Bandcamp sends the money pretty much directly to the artist, so it's really nice.
Oh yeah.
You know, I set it to like $5 or whatever, keep it cheap. Those $5, I get like $4.80. So it's really nice. Spotify gives me like a 99th of a penny every time you listen. So
Right.
it is what it is. I get it that it's more accessible. Not everybody wants to get Bandcamp, but I put it on there for a year. I was like, let's leave it there for a little bit. Let's promote Bandcamp, promote myself a little bit. And then after that, I was like, okay, we're going to switch it over. The show kind of lined up with the date and it kind of worked out. It wasn't exactly like pre-planned. I hate to admit that to the public, but it wasn't exactly pre-planned. I was more or less just like, I want to put this on Spotify now.
Mhm.
And I also want to do a show soon.
Yeah.
And then once we kind of got them both lined up, I was like, well, we might as well do these at pretty much the same time. One day and then the next day, I think it was like a Thursday and a Friday. So in a way, it definitely did promote that, but also I'm not going to try to lie to people and say it hasn't been out for a year. It was just on a different platform. So
I gotcha.
yeah, I got more music coming though. Don't worry.
That's
Me and
awesome.
Connor actually have more music coming. So
Cool. Any so we saw you collab with Trap King Kai with Sunshine Flower,
mhm.
and I really enjoyed like hearing that kind of collaboration. Is there any collaborations that we can that you can tease coming up in the future?
Well, this next one I mostly have just been working with Connor on. We've got a couple songs that we're doing. That's
Connor
not to say
collab,
that
though.
Yeah, right.
nothing
Yeah.
else is happening. But right now, the one that I'll confirm is that there's 2 or 3 tracks coming out that Connor is on.
That's awesome.
So yeah, you can expect a lot from the 2 of us. And then, there might be some other stuff snuck in there. You never know. We'll see.
Cool. And real briefly, I want to know what the relationship between the EP Breathe and King Corso was. I felt some similarities, but also felt some like growth and progression between the two. I was wondering if you could provide some insight in between the relationship between those two bodies of work.
Well, thanks for asking, first of all. King Corso is more or less just me having fun. It was me just kind of throwing tracks together, kind of. I did an album with you, or an EP, whatever you want to call it, before the Scatterbrain one, which I like, but I like listening back to it. A lot of the songs like needed work. A lot of the styles like needed embellishments, needed a little bit more. A lot of it was just my own comfortability on the tracks. But King Corso was more or less things coming together and me kind of realizing what styles worked best for me and like where I fit in the best with my own beats, which is a weird like place to be where you're not exactly sure where you fit on your own beat. But once you figure it out, it's perfect, because it's your own beat. So I feel like King Corso was kind of like me going from that, starting place to like the next step. And then Breathe is kind of even the same thing. But Breathe is a little bit more conceptual just because it's more or less about myself kind of speeding through things too fast. Because I feel like all of us have a tendency to like wish for tomorrow, more or less. Like, oh shit,
Right.
It's Monday. I can't wait till Friday, like fuck work, whatever it is, like I'm a musician. Like I can't wait till we hit it big. And, I can't wait till I'm not working a 9 to 5 anymore and I can tour around the world and this and that. But then it's like, okay, but are you just going to like waste away every day, like wishing the moments away?
Yeah.
So Breathe was kind of like, it's exactly what the title sounds like. It's like take a moment, take a breath,
Yeah.
Leave some space. And then I even like tried to practice that into the songs, like musically, by like not trying to flood the song with raps and like giving little breaks of time and like actually making the verses like coherent to that idea and like actually like putting, breaths in between things and like instead of just trying to, I don't know. Sometimes I have a tendency to just babble on and on a song, which works sometimes. And other times it's like, hey, bro, just take a second and, give a little pause.
Breathe.
Breathe. Exactly. Yeah. So that is what that's about. Some of it is still just having fun. There's that song with Riley and Trap King Kai that's still only on Bandcamp. So if you guys already downloaded it on Bandcamp or if you're thinking about it, you can still go hear one more song. There's a 4th song that's not on Spotify. And I like that one a lot. It's like I said, it's got 2 features from Riley Aaron and Trap King Kai. And then, yeah, the other ones, like I said, it's kind of just, that's more or less what I was thinking about. You could go and dissect each song and they have different, like, individual meanings to them. But overall, like, for the whole project, that's kind of like where my head was at.
Yeah. I've definitely had it in my mind and tried to remind a lot of artists I'm working with that the journey to get to where you want to be is often the one you look back to and reminisce the most about, getting to that, I guess, moment where whatever you consider success as a musician, there's no way you're not looking back at me and like, yeah, we recorded an album on an 8-track tape in a basement for like 2 years. And it's like valuing that's going to become the most valuable part. It's not going to be like, remember when we like won the Grammy? It's like, remember when we like, we played, shows in Steve's kitchen, or whatever, to like 14 people. That was the best night ever, and it's all about the growth and the journey of it all. So yeah, like definitely living in the present is so important, because we all often find ourselves being caught up focusing on the future and living in that and just only thinking about going forward and not really enjoying the moment until it's already passed. So I really like that theme to that record. And the final part of this interview, I just wanted to ask a few fun questions just to kind of get to know you guys better, get to know the band better. And I'll start with Trey and go over what would you say your favorite memory with the band is, if not some of them, just like
one of my favorite memories of the early days in Church Friends, we got a random request to play a Halloween house show.
Let's go.
It came in through a Twitter DM. We didn't know who they were or anything, and it was in Indianapolis, Indiana. So we were kind of like, we don't know anybody in Indianapolis.
Drive, let's go.
Yeah, so we said let's send it up there. So we get to this house party, and it's a furry party.
Okay.
So everybody's in their full furry
Wow.
fits, and we
Small
played.
detail to leave out.
We played.
Small
We had no
detail to
idea.
leave
We had
out.
no idea.
Yeah.
We played a full Halloween set to a house party full of furries.
No way.
Nice folk.
Yeah.
Real nice folk.
It was super
They're
cool.
great.
Yeah,
It was
Yeah.
super
and
cool.
they were welcoming.
We just weren't expecting it.
Yeah, we partied with them for a little bit afterwards,
That's
and then they asked if
wild.
we wanted to spend the night, and that's when we hit the
That's when we
road.
left, yeah.
But yeah, it was a cool experience.
That's crazy.
I never would have been exposed to something like that
Yeah.
otherwise, and they were genuine. Like they just really loved our like home cooking album. I think.
Yep.
Yeah, I
No
think the
kidding.
story is like they had randomly been in Louisville one night and saw us play at Galaxy Bar. Like they were just cruising up and down Market Street and popped into Galaxy and saw us play and liked it. And yeah, it was just one of those weird things, and I'll never forget it. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's hard to beat. Wow. That's incredible.
Really, it's hard to beat.
that's
And they all like are introducing themselves with their furry name. So like we don't know any of their real
Right, you
names.
don't
It's
know.
like Tiger and Wolfie.
I don't
And,
even
Right.
know what they look like to this day.
yeah. These are like $300, $400 suits that they have
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Like,
I've heard
like
they
air
get
conditioning.
very
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
Like air conditioning
Right.
system built
Yeah,
inside.
Yeah.
I've
Shit
heard
was
they go
crazy.
pretty nuts with those.
Yeah.
Holy
It was wild.
moly!
yeah.
Oh my gosh!
I was dressed as a monk.
Yeah. So yeah, we
Are you
we put
Shayronius monk that night?
I
Shayronius
was
Monk.
Shayronius
Yeah.
monk
Okay.
that night.
We used to put on these costumes, like church themed. So like Connor was a nun and
Yeah.
Grant was a
Right.
pope, and I was a priest, and Aaron's a monk. Like,
Right.
and that was fun too.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to do that again. It's just it looks funny.
That's great.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Man, that's such a good one. It's hard to think. Okay, so a funny memory I have, back early on when we were still playing in that warehouse basement, that we talked about. We played the show. This isn't necessarily like it's a good memory, but it's a weird one. So we played the show down there one time, and one of the bands we were playing with, they kind of got added on last minute, and it was kind of like a situation where no one really knew like who they were, but we got there, got everything set up. I think we were waiting on them to show up because they were playing first or something, and they showed up real last minute and started got up there, set up all their stuff, and then started playing. Well, this band, basement full of people down here, and it was noise. And that was the first time I've ever been exposed to like a noise set.
Yeah.
And I think that everyone in that basement was also the first time they've been exposed to a noise set.
Mhm.
Including the people who put on the show, who were like, we had no clue.
There was
Wow.
like 11 people.
There was like it was
so
it was
many people, bro.
crazy. And yeah, proceeded to play like some of the most unsettling things
Yeah.
I think I've ever.
Yeah.
And at the time we were probably all smoking real high or something.
Yeah, I was fighting demons off of that.
Yeah.
set.
We,
Oh my
we were
gosh.
all like
But-
in the other room. I remember us all looking at each other, being like, "I don't know if I can make it through." Like,
Yeah.
like I feel like I'm struggling right now. Like, and the vibe in there was just awful. Like everyone
Yeah.
was just sitting in their own spot in a corner, and they were all just
Mhm.
kind of like doing their
Yeah.
own thing, and just like did look very uncomfortable. But I don't know, just always one of my fondest memories. It's just such a weird night to experience. And that band, they came and they went. They showed up, they played, and they tore
Gypsies.
down and just
I've
never saw them again.
heard it.
And we were just like,
Never heard
what
that.
in the hell just happened?
Yeah.
I mean, it was. I think we
It's very
discovered
interesting.
later that we had a friend who played in that set.
that also agreed.
That
with
also agreed.
what we
that-
had to say.
that-
Yeah.
And in fact, they said that later on the band had told her you were playing too rhythmically. Like they got mad at her.
That's funny.
They're like, you're playing too much music
legit
in this
comedy.
noise set.
That's-
So it just kind of confirmed the feelings for the vibe that night. But
That was
wow.
the same night Grant ended up playing in his underwear.
that was
Yeah.
yes.
Grant
Grant
had just
he had just
graduated college.
graduated, yeah.
He wore his gown.
His
Nothing
cap and
else
gown.
except his underwear and his gown, which was really fucking fun.
Yeah. Somehow,
Yeah.
by the end of the set, it was just underwear.
It was just underwear.
The
yeah.
crowd cheered him on. He did not. He did
Yeah,
not
it was
do
full-
that on his own.
He didn't want to.
He did.
Yeah, he was fighting it. He was fighting it as best he could, but
When the
you
crowd
can
wants
only do
something,
so much. Yeah,
Yeah,
you can only do so
crowd
much.
wants what the crowd wants.
Yeah.
I think
Wow.
he came out like without the shirt, and then for some reason people started cheering him on to take his pants off, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Why are y'all cheering him to do that?" But yeah,
That's
So
a
that's
wild,
rock
that's
and
a
roll, I
wild
guess.
house show. for
Wild
you.
House Show,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
I was gonna cite one of the warehouse shows too, but no, I'm not sure that I will. I feel like instead I should. We used to make videos. I shouldn't out myself on this one. This is I shouldn't even mention this to the people, but I will, because I love y'all. We made a video for, was it Mark that asked us to do that?
Yeah, the Valentine's Day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for the Valentine's Day thing, and we did a cover of Deborah by Beck. Have you seen the video?
I've seen the video.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
So I won't go into detail about that. I'll let the people find that on their own. But it was like
find out
it
on the dark
wasn't like
web.
my fondest memory. In fact, it was like kind of painful.
It was a
But,
weird time for
it was
us too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was uncomfortable as fuck. But they pressured me into doing it, and so I was like, all right. I guess this is what we're doing. It did make a really funny video, though. I won't lie.
It did.
Yeah, the video will forever live.
It will.
Yeah,
It
so-
will.
Sometimes
Perfect.
peer pressure is a good thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
There you go.
Sometimes.
Absolutely.
I'll just generally tack on. I think my actual true best memory is the four of us as a band lived in the same house for 2 years. And like I will remember that till the day I die. The good, the
Facts.
bad,
Oh,
and the
yeah.
ugly.
Facts.
Yeah.
Like
The
we
good, the
had
bad,
some
and
of
the
the
ugly, for
some
sure.
of the best times of my entire life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Simultaneously, we're at each other's throats.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we had parties that literally made the neighbors move out. There
Yeah.
was
Incredible.
there was literally one party in particular that our neighbors
Put their house up for sale.
Right,
the
yeah.
very next week.
Yeah.
And,
Golly.
like, the sign was not up before that. Like
that was a bad one.
yeah.
That one.
I mean, I can't really blame them. There was like a whole 30-pack of White Castle wrappers in their front lawn. I
Yeah.
don't really blame 'em. I went and picked it up, but by the
So-
time I woke up, it
This was
like
a phase I think we were moving away from being a band and just focusing on like hosting house parties.
hosting
Right,
house
yeah.
We're like,
parties,
this
yeah.
feels like the right
Becoming
thing.
good
we
hosts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
night, if I remember correctly, someone made the mistake. I think it's the one who's not here with us, but somebody was going around giving out the address to
Oh,
everyone
he
at the
used to love
show.
it. That was his favorite
Oh,
move. That
that'll
was
do it.
Grant's
He would just
favorite
That'll
go
do
around
it.
like shouting the address out. Is like, dude, that's
Bro, that
fine.
was-
But when 100 people show up at our house, like,
Yeah.
That was if he didn't say it on the microphone. If they didn't say
right?
it.
It's like, come on, dude.
I mean, Chris, did you ever come to a house party at the Strand House?
I did, yes.
You did? Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
I,
you
did.
did
I
one.
was at the Strand House, I
Nice.
think maybe once or twice.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
Stopped in briefly. It was like, this is lit.
It was always it was like a hodgepodge of the four of our different social connections, right?
Yeah,
So, like,
yeah, absolutely.
And there was
Yeah.
always like a little crossover amongst those four groups, and then by the end, it got to the point where like I'd be walking around my house and it'd be wall to wall people, and I don't know a single person.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's
Right.
that's an unsettling
it's a
spot to
dangerous
be
place
in.
Yeah,
to
that's
be
a
in.
weird place. But it's like, yeah, I'd walk around and I'd see like Gavin or Landon around, and be like, "What's up, Landon?" And then like, it's like, "What's going on?" I was like, "I don't know. I don't know anybody here." It's like, "Don't you live here?" It's like, "I do. I don't know a soul."
I didn't invite
Part of
you.
it's kind of like, fuck yeah, like this is awesome. And then
It
the
was
other
kinda
part
cool.
of it's just like, ah, shit, wait. Hold on.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool being able to say like there was people showing up at our house at 3 a.m. that we didn't know, and they were like, "The party's here." And we're
We
like,
got
we're like,
lucky.
dude. That left 30 minutes ago. What are you
Yeah.
doing? Like,
We got lucky because the messes were never like irreparable. Like it was
Yeah.
It's
never.
never
He
devastating.
He says that because it's like I got up early the next day and cleaned the whole house, and he
Well,
Yeah,
we
did have a
what I
dynamic
mean
in
by
my
that
house
is
for
that there
sure.
was never like a broken window,
Right,
or,
right,
like,
right,
you
right.
A
know,
balcony
like,
that just
a balcony
collapsed.
that broke
property
down.
damage
Yeah,
wasn't
I've
a
heard-
common theme,
yeah.
which is good. Yeah.
Didn't have any collapsing
We did get
balconies.
lucky. Nothing ever got stolen, from what I know.
Insane.
Like so
That
it
we're
was-
aware of.
I have to imagine it was all
It's a
good
whole
people.
toilet gone.
Yeah, right.
It's like somebody just.
I kind of like expected something to happen.
could've
I was
stolen
like, I
that.
don't really know
Fuck.
y'all. Like, I trust that you guys all come from good sources, but I don't know any of y'all's
Yep.
names. So like,
Yeah.
I can't really trust any of you. But
There would always be a
Let's-
point in the night when it
Yeah.
was like the SIGs inside switch got
Sigs
flipped on.
inside
Yeah.
was that was an
Yeah.
issue.
And that's when you knew it's like, okay, we got about an
guys.
hour to an hour and a half left of this
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
Right.
before it
To-
starts winding
to
down.
clear it
Yeah.
out.
yeah, we gotta
Yeah.
clear
Or
this out.
else,
'cause
yeah.
people are
Yeah, when
smoking
SIGs start going
inside.
inside, then you're like, all right, we gotta
Yeah.
stop.
Man, we
Yeah.
had a sunroom and everything. Like it wasn't even
Yeah.
wasn't even
So many
bad.
places to smoke.
Yeah. Although half the time Grant flipped that switch himself. I won't
True.
lie.
Yeah.
Grant didn't even smoke
A lot
fucking
of it's
cig. He'd
self-inflicted.
still smoke a cig inside.
Yeah, once the
I'd be
flip
like,
got
bro,
switched.
it's the only
Yeah.
cig you've smoked in 6 months and you had to do it inside.
Grant's like the most irresponsible, responsible person you know.
I swear.
He's like,
I swear.
in his regular life, he's so anal retentive about like locking the doors 3 times and
Right.
like he's so responsible about everything. And then
Mhm.
you get a drink in him at a party and he's smoking cigs inside and he's like, yeah, let's fuck shit up. And I'm like, great. Like, whoa, where is this coming from? Like,
Bro, he was still
Getting
doing
mixed
that shit
signals from
after he
you.
was sober. He was still doing that.
yeah, that's
shit.
true. That's
I'm
true.
not
It's just,
gonna
he's just
lie.
got that mischievous.
He does, bro. He does. He'll still smoke a cig inside. There's no... Oh, man.
His
I
favorite
love my
food
brother.
establishment is Waffle House for that reason.
Yeah.
Grant, shouts out to you. We miss you, bud. We wish you were
Absolutely.
here.
He's still alive. Just
Oh yeah. No, I mean
That's
not to
important.
confuse anybody.
The phrasing
Yeah.
there was a bit. So this next one, somebody can elect. We don't need to go one by one, but if somebody has like a unique perspective on this, but how do you think music influences our perception of reality? I think of ways that we don't maybe initially see how it affects us. And like I remember when I was a kid, I see like the opera singer singing and breaking like the champagne glass. I'm like, what is that doing on another level, like to us? Like maybe like I don't know, like a quantum level, or just like how music affects and vibrates us like in certain ways. I'm curious, like how do you think music can physically change reality, or how, if you've had any thoughts of that?
Well, me and Connor both spent a year in music therapy. So we both have seen where music can be like medically applied to change the reality.
Quite literally can somewhat
Wow.
Can
physically,
change the physical reality of a situation.
Yeah.
Neither of us obviously went through with that degree. It just kind of wasn't there for me. I think Connor felt the same way, but
You
either
though had-
way,
yeah.
I still respected it a lot and thought it was really cool and very interesting. So we've definitely both seen that. I also like vibrations are a lot of, like a lot of things depend on vibrations, like obviously sound, but also just, reactions and stuff. I don't know about fucking physics, but I do know that I do think that music alters the reality around us just by the way that we kind of view things and see things in our daily life too. And obviously musicians typically make music to make emotions stronger, I guess, whether they're good or bad. And so a lot of times that can also alter how you see things. So I firmly believe that music can alter both the reality of the situation and also how you perceive it.
Yeah,
Or how you perceive it.
yeah.
And
Perception for sure. Like when a slow tempo arrives itself, time is moving at the same speed, but when you hear a certain song, time can slow down or time can speed up depending on what you're hearing. But it's like everything's happening at the same pace, but our perception then changes. It's like what we talked about, how the 25-minute set sounding like a 10-minute set. Like, well, that happened so fast. Or a 10-minute set dragging on to feel like it's 30-minute set,
And it goes into everything, man. I mean, movies, you're not going to find a movie without a soundtrack that doesn't have everything to do with the movie. And same with like,
I mean, music is like the flavor of life. Really,
it is.
It's like
it is.
It's in everything. It's entertainment in general like doesn't really exist outside of music. I feel like there's so much that our brain responds to on a very. I mean, even just historically. I mean, it's something that's always been there in us.
Yeah.
And so I think it just resonates within us in a different way than any other kind of media does.
Mm-hmm.
You think music is something that is inherent in nature, like written into like the DNA of nature itself, or is it something brought on by us humans?
I think
Very
it's.
much.
I mean, I think it's something that we can, thinking about it that way, it does get into a very philosophical perspective of that. But I think whether it's something that comes from us as well, or whether it's just something we kind of harness from what's around us, I kind of feel like it's more harnessing because
Like electricity.
It's something that we feel it there. I mean, I feel it when I create music. It's there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like mining away the excess until you get to that.
That's
inside
exactly
of
what it's
you
like.
know. It's like trying to dig that out of yourself.
Right.
I think it's there. I think everything. I mean, just nature in general. You go out in the woods and you listen. There's a song. There's a sound to nature, and it's different in different places. And different on the day. It's depending on. I think even just in the simple things of like when you hear nature go quiet, like that is so unsettling to humans in general.
Right.
because there's something deep in us that relates sound to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I just it's there. It's there.
I mean, birds
Yeah.
literally sing songs.
Yeah, I mean they literally sing to each other. Yeah,
They
That's
literally
one of my
sing
favorite
songs.
places to go with that. Is like, well, music is inherently like written into nature because
Right.
of what we see it naturally occurring with birds like singing.
Mhm.
absolutely.
And
So-
also, you can think about, like people make those. I know this is not exactly natural, but people make those like rain drums and stuff, where they like put a drum underneath like where the rain is dropping, like underneath
Right.
a tree or whatever,
Mhm.
and just like listen to the rhythm of it, and it'll.
Yeah.
I don't know, the way the water breaks off, it's normally always like pretty rhythmic. It's normally
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
not exactly to a metronome, but it's definitely something you can bob your head to.
Yeah.
And it's
Mhm.
just, I don't know. I think that's both strange and beautiful. But Connor gave the best answer. It's something I feel like we harness and something that we mine out of our brains. I don't know. That was a great answer. I'm not going to add to it. I couldn't do better.
Yeah, it seems like as though there's like this universal language within music as well, where no matter what's like, no language has to be spoken. You can know the feeling or intention behind a song without being from
Yeah.
completely two different worlds.
Absolutely. And like even if it's in a different style and it's like I don't know, the emotion of music is universal. It's not
Mhm.
Right.
it is its own language and in that like you express the feeling and it can be received by anybody. It's not you don't have to understand what someone's saying or
Yeah.
even really what their intention is. It even if it means something different to you than someone else, music has an emotion that you feel, and it even if it's different between everybody, it's still still universal in that way. It's just everyone feels it.
How does your personal philosophy influence the music you all create?
In a lot of ways for me. But that's because I rap. So there's just a
Right.
lot of lyrics,
Mm-hmm.
so I have plenty of time to talk about myself and how I feel about things and
Mm-hmm.
this and that. So I'd say in most every way it affects how I write music.
Right.
Also, even just like the bass instrumentation of it too, a lot of times, because I like my philosophy a lot of time is minimalism and then kind of building from
Mhm.
there, starting really small and kind of building from there. So I'd say it affects about everything I do for sure, in one way or another, at the very least.
Mm-hmm. For people who are not super don't know like the back end of what it's like being a musician, can you describe how the approach is between going to record a song to going to perform a song live? And it's different for everyone. Some people say it's like the same. Or some people lock in a different way. So I'd love to start with Trey. Like, how do you approach a live session recording versus a live session in front of an audience?
The live session in front of an audience for me is a lot more loose.
Right.
I'm much more focused on like, let's have a good time. Let's experience this music with the people that are here, as opposed to like, I need to be perfect and, do everything by the formula. It's a lot more of for me, man, it's like music is church. Like I'm not a church going folk anymore. But I was raised in that, and live music has replaced that for me. So I go into the live setting much more loose and looking to just share an experience with the other people that are there.
Yeah.
In the studio, I'm approaching it a lot more, and this may be to my detriment. I approach a studio session as if I'm going to work for the day. Like there's a level of seriousness to it for me of like, I want to get this right. I want to do a good job.
Yeah.
I want to make the boss happy, whoever that is in the situation,
Yeah.
like whoever wrote the song or whatever it is, whoever's directing.
Yeah.
And it's not quite as spiritual. Like I'm not going in there and connecting crazily with anything other than like, let's make something really cool and really good quality. So that's how I approach those two things. And I don't know this. I'm much more a fan of the live thing. Like we've all got our own taste, but I'm drawn to the live stuff The studio for me is not quite as social, not quite as interactive. I still do it and I still get enjoyment from it, but I'm a live cat. Like
Yeah.
that's my bread and butter.
Yeah. The audience is so sensitive. I think a lot of musicians starting out just need to hear that the audience is so sensitive to how comfortable you are on stage, and with your comfort on there is their comfort out there, and they're so sensitive to everything happening up there. So it's less about like being, as you said, let's all be right on time, be perfect. Let's just make sure we all feel good together, and we're all on the same page. And even if we go a little off script, we go off script together. We don't, I've seen bands where it's like things go a little off script, and maybe one person just says like, well, I'm just going to stick to the book instead of feeling it out, with the audience. So that's a really important note to make about that.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned some of those things, because that kind of does, lead into to what I was going to answer there. I do feel like live performance for me, I was a choir kid growing up, so live performance was always kind of a rigid, it feels more like a test to me. It felt like a test growing up. By the time I was doing the band, I think a lot of that energy kind of stayed with me until we hit a point where, just me as a person, I was realizing, what am I even doing this for? Why am I here? And I think when I really established with myself that I'm here because I love playing music, was when I started to realize that, live performance it's not necessarily a performance in that, like, I'm trying to hit all of the beats of this thing that that I've created. It's more an experience that you're having on stage with the people in the crowd in that moment. And when I kind of got my head around that, the nerves kind of started to fall away from me when I started to perform live. Funny enough, those nerves are now in the studio. I don't get those nerves live. I mean, I still get nervous, before going on, just like typical nerves. But, being on stage feels like home, and it feels like every moment's passing away, and I don't have to dwell on things.
Yeah.
I can just release my art into the wind and hope that whoever's out there takes that well.
Yeah.
But when I'm in the studio, it puts this pressure onto me to be like, well, I'm going to hear this back 1,000 times.
Yeah.
If I'm not satisfied with that, like, that's going to be bad for me, because I'm going to think about that a lot. And so I do have like a real big pressure that I feel when I go into the studio. I've tried to work through that over time, and it definitely gets better. But yeah, I almost feel that performance pressure way more in the booth behind the microphone than I ever do looking at somebody in the crowd. Because at least there I can make a connection and I know the emotion's there.
Mm-hmm.
But, whether or not I'm going to be able to get that emotion onto the track, and, do I feel great that day? Does my voice feel great that day?
Mm-hmm.
I'm so spotty, and like adrenaline is such a big thing for me in performing. It really, the adrenaline kicks in and everything just kind of falls into place for me. The studio's different. It's not, there's no one there breathing down your neck to give you that adrenaline kick. It's just you, and you have to pull that out of yourself.
Yeah.
So for me, that's a hard thing, because I kind of struggle with pulling that out of myself in contexts like that. I kind of just need to let it out when I do, and that's how I feel better about it. So studio's a process for me, for sure. But
I feel you. I make my own beats, so it's like a little bit different for me, I guess. I enjoy both of them kind of equally. I feel like I am a bit of a homebody. I really love just staying at home on the weekend, like playing video games, getting in the studio, going back to the PlayStation, back to the studio, in between.
Yeah.
Like, what else?
It's a vicious
do you
cycle.
do? Yeah, it's a vicious cycle. Might stop to eat, I might not. But anyways, I really love spending time in the studio. I really love, I take after my brother a little bit, that I will just sit all night and like work on things and just go through sounds and like edit things to, an unending amount. It seems like sometimes I'm not the same as him, but I do take after him a little bit in that regard. But at the same time, live performance is kind of like where all that work pays off, if that makes sense. Where it's like, I shouldn't say it like that, because it definitely pays off in the moment that you hear the song back and you're like, that shit sounds good. You know, like I actually made a song that I enjoy listening to. I can put this on in the car and hear a song I made, and this is great. But then once you go and you're able to perform it and like it sounds good with the band and you think you're sounding good and you're confident in yourself and the crowd is vibing with it, like that is definitely like one of the best feelings of making music, in my opinion. So I have a probably equal love for both. They're definitely very different, like mind states and processes, but they're still both like two things that are vital to the process, vital to the cycle of what we do, and two things I enjoy a lot. What I don't enjoy is promoting shows. No offense. I'm
Yeah,
so bad
that's
at it.
rough.
I hate making Instagram posts. I hate
Yeah.
just cause I'm over here like everything's happy go lucky. I love everything. Like, no, y'all, I fucking hate promoting shows. It's the worst thing. Everybody out there that's really good at doing promo, I respect you. Please hit my DMs and tell me how, because
Being able to sell yourself is a skill, man. It's
I hate that shit, dude.
Absolutely.
I'm just like, let me make one post with a little poster that tells you what time to be there, and I'm
Right.
gonna hope that y'all all show up. And sometimes it works for me, but I should be better than that.
Right.
But yeah, this is a fun form of promo. This I don't hate, but you know, a little promo for that recording that we made.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I don't know. For the most part, like when I think about promo, I think about like making Instagram posts and, you know, doing all the things you need to do to get people's attention. And that's my least favorite part. Not that anybody asks, but yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I really I really liked what you had mentioned about how the moment when you're playing live is this fleeting moment where the moment's there and then it's gone, and it really is about the feeling of it, where there's this strange moment where the strange observation I made from what you had said, that I just resonated with, which was uh, when you're in a live setting, you know, you have all these eyes on you. But when I'm recording like to a click track in a studio, just me and the producer, I feel more under a magnifying glass in
Mhm.
that moment
Absolutely.
than in the live setting.
Yeah.
And it's just you and the one guy, but you feel the most eyes on you at that that one point, because you are isolated in that point.
Yeah, and I think as musicians, I think all of us can relate in this room. Your biggest hater is yourself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So like
For
when you're in a
sure.
studio, you're in that studio alone. You know, I mean, even if there's, you know, someone in the other, you know, in the booth, you're there and you're in that room and you're isolated, and the only person staring back at you is you.
Mhm.
So I mean, it really is. It's like confronting yourself and trying to get over yourself to get something down and feel like that can be good, and not just getting caught up in the staring back at yourself the whole time and saying, "Well, this just sucks." You know, like this is
Yeah.
never going to be as good as I want it to be.
Yeah.
So
That's why I'm kind of picky with producers and people that record. And that's why I like working with you and the select others I worked with, just because I like, you know, it's too easy for somebody recording you to just be like, oh yeah, it sounds great. Let's move on.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
where it's like, I can trust you to be like, hey, you can do that better. Let's run it back. You know, and it's like, okay, cool. Like, you know, I probably was already thinking that, but the one time after being told that a couple times that you're like, okay, that shit sounds good. Like I can actually believe it. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, cool. Like, you know, I've been told that this could be better a few times now, and now I'm being told it's good. So I'll go with that, even if in my own head I'm like still criticizing myself. You know, like it's important to me, for exactly what Connor said, to have somebody else there that you can trust to be like that. No, you're good. Like that sounds good. You know, but sometimes I'm still like, hey, let's try it one more time just in case. But you know, if nobody else was there to tell me when to stop, then I would just keep doing takes. I do just keep doing takes at home when I make demos.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think that the thing that's just been on the kind of in the background the most, or not seen the most, is the process of making music. I think that's why some of the most popular clips about musicians is them in the studio, the really rare ones of like, oh my gosh, Michael Jackson is like recording Thriller using like this microphone that I use, and like, oh my god, just seeing the process like of him laying down all these like 17 harmonies and somehow laying them all in like this perfect way. So I appreciate you all giving that insight into that. And I have a lot more questions, but we will wrap it up with this last one. And we'll go Trey and over again for this last one. What is a piece of advice you would give a young person who is trying to become a musician in the city? And what would you say is the most rewarding part of performing and writing music for you?
Great question. Let's start with the first one, advice for a young person who is pursuing music, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think what I can say is if you consistently pursue getting out of your comfort zone musically, it's going to pay off. Maybe not how you're expecting it to, but it will pay off in some form or fashion that's going to help you out down the road. That might not mean that you make it big and you are the next, Bruno Mars, but it's gonna help you in your life in some way or another. We, I think, are all guilty of this, myself included, but we want to stay in the comfort zone in every aspect of our life. And if music is what you're really wanting to do, what's going to benefit you the most is figuring out, okay, what's the most out of my element that I can push myself to just get better. I'm trying to think of an example of like how we got out of our comfort zone. I don't know, a lot of the things that we started to do live, like to be entertaining on stage. This is kind of at the height of our pursuing the church friends as a band. Stage presence was not something that any of the four of us were like born to be great at. No. But we realized pretty early on that we had to make ourselves exciting to look at, and we would just try different antics on stage, and that was very out of our comfort zone for all four of us for sure. But like the payoff is evident. We played a show at the Monarch as the backing band for Grant's solo project a few months ago, and basically it was a stand-up comedy set. Like it wasn't even like a musical set. Like it was Grant was doing a stand-up comedy set with music in between, and he never would have been able to do that so successfully if we hadn't pushed ourselves out of our comfort zone on stage for all those years. And he just refined it, and that's a skill that he can take in different avenues of life. So that's my biggest piece of advice is like, it's easy to do the stuff that you are really good at or that you really like doing, but find the pieces of music that are out of your comfort zone and just hammer those home. Like keep hammering them home. And be consistent, man. Like don't stop. Like I was saying earlier, there's a lot of really fine musicians that I knew in high school, through concert band and such that haven't touched an instrument in 10 years. And it's like, there's so many different places music can take you, even if it's not what you're expecting it to be. So if you love it, don't stop. And could you repeat the second part of that question?
What's been the most rewarding part of being a musician?
The most rewarding part is definitely the friendships and that sounds cliche, but like, dude, the people that I'm the closest with, it's from music, like 100%. It's a different type of bond than I get like with somebody from the office, or somebody from whatever other area of life. Like we've created things, like I have this lifelong bond with Connor, Aaron, and Grant because we've been through so many things musically that it's just like, I don't share that with anybody else. Like we have, we just have this catalog of shared memories and shared experiences that the four of us can sit down and fucking shoot the shit on it and just get so much satisfaction from sitting around and talking about these memories and experiences that we have and continue to make new memories and experiences. Like the social circle is the most rewarding piece of music for me. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, really well said.
Advice to young musicians, I'd say, don't be afraid to branch out. Don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone musically. I think it's really easy to kind of pick a lane and stick in that lane. But I think one of the most beneficial things I've done is kind of swerve out of that lane. And I think it strengthens your position in the lane you're in when you kind of swerve out of it a little bit in the weirdest way. It teaches you a lot of things. Also to say, don't be afraid to make connections. I feel like, music is a very personal experience to a lot of people, but it also is very universal, like we talked about. It's very, communicative. And I think it's easy when you're trying to make it music to feel like you just have to do it alone. And I think, the music industry kind of has a story of like the person who, just grinded and they believed in themselves. And so they, they made it happen start to finish. And, it was them. And I'm like, okay, cool. But what I've also learned is that, like, if you pave that path thinking that that's how it is, you isolate a lot of people that could have really helped you. And I think that it's an important part as a musician to grow with other people. Because music isn't singular. It's not one person. So, just don't be afraid to like get yourself out there, and also realize that like most other people are in the same position you're in. It's easy to feel isolated because you're going into a scene. You're starting into something that you weren't a part of, before. It was there before you. It's going to be there after you die. So it feels so much bigger than yourself. But when you realize that everyone's kind of doing the same thing and they're all trying to make it work, and then you can find people with similar things, similar goals to you, you can lift each other up in that way, which I think is important. In regards to like what music has done for me, I'm like, I think the biggest thing for me, music has kind of given me, and like performing has given me like a voice. There's a portion of me that would never see the light of day. There really is. I mean, there's a whole side of me that like would never get out if it wasn't for music. So I think the coolest part for me is being able to release that part of myself, and see other people receive that part as well. I think it's helped me open up as a person, just kind of experiencing all of this. And like, especially with you guys, it's like, I feel like being in a situation like this has really just kind of opened me up as a person, where I was very closed off before. Still am closed off to a degree, but
I've seen the evolution, man. Yeah.
Me too.
It's definitely brought me out of my shell, which is good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So as far as advice goes, first and foremost, stay vulnerable. Because it's easy to be like, oh, what if people don't like it? What if people think this is whack? What if people think I'm weird for saying this? Like, whatever. If you feel that shit and it feels like it means something to you, then go ahead and say it and apologize later. That's how I feel. Stay vulnerable, stick your neck out, and don't say no to new experiences just because they're weird. If you play in a band and somebody asks you to play with their band, don't say no just because you're like, oh, I'm already in a band. I was doing that when I was 18 or so. It's not the way. Lastly, pay to play is bullshit. If anybody ever asks you to pay to play a show, don't do it. Say no right away. Go wrong, please.
Oh God.
Besides that, just do what makes you happy, and if you're having a good time, then you're doing something right. They also say that if you're accumulating haters, then you're doing something right. So don't forget that. As far as the most rewarding experience, these guys said some really good ones, and I also second both of the things they said, as far as networking and memories and friendships you make along the way. I also personally just like making a song that I like listening to. Sometimes the most rewarding thing for me is just being able to listen back and be like, wow, this is a really good song, and I fucking did that, like this is awesome. And nobody else could make a song that I like so much because this came from my own brain of an accumulation of things that I like just formed into this, So a lot of times, like, don't be afraid to say that, like, you love listening to your own music. And if that's the case, if you don't, then I don't know what to tell you. But, yeah, I don't know. For me, a lot of that is not only what these guys said, but a lot of times it's just listening back and having something that you like that you can be proud of,
Absolutely. Yeah, you all had some incredible points. I want to just kind of reiterate. The Trey's point was, to get out of your comfort zone. And that is I think that's important in just all aspects of life, whatever skill you are trying to hone. Getting out of your comfort zone is so important because I think everybody can attribute that or superimpose that onto their own situation. Like me as just an audio engineer, if I start, I can get comfortable. Yeah, my mixes sound good, so I'm not going to use any other plugins, or I'm not going to change anything about my method from now on because it's just fine. It's like, well, you're going to miss some stuff, and there's some new stuff with AI that it's kind of scary, but I've started implementing and I really like, and it's become a tool. It's not replacing anything I do. It just makes my job easier. And just getting out of your comfort zone is so important. And it's okay to, once you break past that barrier and you achieve that goal, you can sit there and reward yourself and, kind of bask in that, but realize that at some point it is time to move forward and continue on, because that's what makes you great. Is the pressure that comes from leaving that comfort spot. So I think that's such a great way of saying that, stay out of the comfort zone, keep learning, that's what keeps you learning and adapting. And to your point, no man is an island. Music is a social experiment. And music is so social, and it is very easy to see, somebody as they themselves did it by themselves and no one had to help them. They just went on their, but they most likely have a team behind them because they need people to promote them, to book the shows. These people, they may appear and they're marketed as a singular solo thing because that's what looks good. But they oftentimes do have a big team behind them helping them. So don't be afraid to reach out to your friends and ask for help, and realize that music is such a social thing as well. So don't isolate yourself, even though some people you may look up to seem as though they're isolated. They're most likely not. They have a lot of help. And so I thought that was a really great point. And as you're saying, don't be afraid to speak your mind of what you say. Don't police your own feelings and emotions and put them in a gated garden of what you think is socially acceptable. I was talking to Dave Wilkris the other day here, and he said something that was, I loved. He said, his music, oftentimes he really is vulnerable with how he feels in his worst moments, and he shares those with his audience. And he does that in a way to say, yeah, I feel this way and it's crazy. And I think, and for some, he does that so people can hear that and feel less alone in their situation. I think young people, especially, we've all had that moment when we were young where we're feeling, no one feels the way I feel. There's no way somebody feels the way I feel until you hear that song that speaks such truth to how you feel, that you feel heard. And you feel less alone. You may not know that person, but you feel closer to that artist. And it's so important to do that. And if people police the way they feel, or they don't say something because they feel they might be judged for it, you're going to miss the opportunity to make that young person feel less alone in their situation and to be motivated to continue on and even create going forward to inspire others. Mm-hmm. So I think all three of you had excellent points to that advice, and I hope people do listen to that. But church friends, Trey, Connor, Aaron, and Grant, I see you out there. Thank you all for your time. Thank you for being here. Just a reminder to everybody, Church Friends records are out everywhere music is sold, and you will probably see your favorite local artist being backed up by this band at some point. So once again, thank you all so much for being here. And
for having us.
Yeah, thanks,
Chris. You're a total natural. I hope you keep doing this because it's beautiful. You're killing it, man. Thank you.
Thank you all
seriously,
so much.
Everything you do, bro.